The pilot passed out mid-sentence. 30,000 feet. 267 people. No one knew what to do. Except one woman. A single mom. Sitting in row 9. She stood up. Walked to the cockpit. And flew that plane home. What happened next, nobody saw coming. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. The pilot was talking to the passengers. His name was Captain Michael Torres. He had a warm voice. The kind of voice that makes people feel safe on airplanes. He had just pressed the intercom button. He was going to tell everyone about the weather in Denver. About the smooth ride ahead. About the expected landing time. He said 2 words. Ladies and gentle. Then silence. Captain Torres fell sideways in his seat. His hands slipped off the controls. His head dropped forward. His eyes closed. Just like that. Mid-sentence. Gone. For 2 full seconds, nothing happened. The cockpit was quiet. The cabin was quiet. The world was quiet. Then the plane tilted. Slowly. Gently. Just a small tilt to the right. Not violent. Not scary at first. But enough. A coffee cup slid off a tray table and fell to the floor. A woman's water bottle rolled down the aisle. A baby started crying in row 22. A man in a business suit in row 4 put both hands on his armrest and looked around with wide eyes. 267 people on that plane felt the same thing at the same moment. That feeling. Deep in your stomach. When something is very wrong and you don't know what it is yet. In seat 9A, a woman in a yellow sundress felt it too. But she did not grab her armrest. She did not look around with wide eyes. She did not make a sound. She closed her eyes for exactly 1 second. And she listened. She listened to the engines. The sound was slightly off. She felt the angle of the tilt with her whole body. She counted in her head. 1. 2. 3. Her eyes opened. They went to the window. Then to the aisle. Then to the cockpit door at the front of the plane. 4 seconds. That is all she needed. 4 seconds to read an entire airplane. The boy in seat 9B was 8 years old. His name was Lucas Reed. He had a sketchbook in his lap and a pencil in his hand. He had been drawing since takeoff, the clouds outside the window, the shape of the wing, the old man with the big hat in row 6, the flight attendant with the red shoes. He was a boy who drew everything he never wanted to forget. Now he stopped drawing. He looked at his mother. Mama. She looked at him. Yellow sundress. His color. He had picked it for her that very morning, standing in her bedroom doorway while she got ready, holding up the yellow dress from the closet with both hands. Mama, wear yellow. It makes you look like sunshine. She had laughed and put it on. Now she looked at her son for exactly 1 second. She looked at his face. His brown eyes. His small hands holding the sketchbook. She looked at him the way you look at someone when you want to remember them exactly as they are right now. Then she made a decision. One decision. Made in 1 second. That would save 267 lives. That is what she said. Quietly. Calmly. Like she was telling him it was time for dinner. Friday, May 17, 2019. 12:44 p.m. Pacific Time. 30,000 feet above Arizona. The pilot passed out mid-sentence. The plane began to tilt. 267 people felt it. One woman in a yellow dress felt something else. She felt the answer. And she had exactly 63 minutes to prove it. Lucas Reed opened his sketchbook to a fresh clean page. He picked up his pencil. He drew his mother standing up from her seat. Yellow dress. Her hair. The way she held her chin when she was thinking hard. He drew her walking forward toward the front of the plane. He did not know why he was drawing it. He only knew that he drew everything he never wanted to forget. And he already knew, deep in his 8-year-old heart, he never wanted to forget this moment. Flight attendant Morgan Davis was running. She was 31 years old. Born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. 6 years with United Airlines. She had handled bad turbulence. She had handled sick passengers. She had handled a man who tried to open the emergency door at 35,000 feet. She had never had to handle this. The first officer, James Park, had not taken control after Captain Torres collapsed. Instead, his hands had locked onto the controls and frozen there. A full panic attack. His body had completely shut down. His frozen hands were actually making the tilt worse. The autopilot was fighting against him. Losing. Morgan ran down the center aisle, looking at every face. Is there a pilot on this plane? Anyone who can fly? Please. Anyone. Silence. Passengers looked at each other. Some looked at the floor. Nobody stood up. Nobody spoke. Morgan stopped in the middle of the aisle. She pressed her hands together. She breathed. She thought. Then she remembered something. Right when the plane first tilted, she had been standing at the back of the cabin. She had watched the passengers react. Most of them had grabbed something. Several had screamed. A few had started crying. But the woman in seat 9A, the one in the bright yellow sundress, had done something different. She had reached sideways and grabbed her son. But not the way a scared mother grabs her child. Not desperately. Not in panic. Precisely. Firmly. Like she was securing something important. Like a pilot checking that cargo was properly strapped before takeoff. That woman grabbed her boy like she already knew exactly what was happening, Morgan thought. Not scared. Assessing. Morgan turned around. She ran back toward row 9. The woman in the yellow dress was already out of her seat. She was standing in the aisle, facing forward. Waiting. Like she had known Morgan was coming. You. Morgan said, breathing hard. Me, the woman said. Calm. Simple. Are you a? Yes. Let's go. Right now. Lucas looked up from his sketchbook. Mama? Ashley Reed knelt down in the aisle. She came down to her son's eye level. She put both her hands on his face, one on each cheek, the way she had done every single morning before school for the last 3 years. Lucas. You remember what Mama always says? The boy nodded without hesitating. Sunshine always finds a way through. She kissed his forehead. She held it there for 1 extra second. Watch Mama fly, baby. I will be right back. I promise. The man in seat 9C, Dr. Robert Hayes, 58, a cardiologist from Seattle, Washington, had been listening. He leaned forward now. I am a heart doctor, he said quietly. I will stay with your son until you come back. And I'll go help the captain. Ashley looked at him. 1 long second. She read his face the same way she had read the airplane. Steady. Honest. Capable. Thank you, Dr. Hayes. She stood up. She turned toward the front of the plane. And she walked. Not running. Walking. Steady and straight. Like she had done this 1,000 times before. Because she had. Lucas watched his mother walk away down the aisle. He did not cry. He did not call after her again. He looked at her until she disappeared through the cockpit door. Then he picked up his pencil. And he kept drawing. She said, "Sunshine always finds a way through every single morning before school. Every morning for 3 years." Lucas thought it was just something mamas say to their kids. He had no idea it was something else entirely. He had no idea it was a call sign. Ashley opened the cockpit door and stepped inside. Captain Michael Torres was slumped sideways in the left seat. He was 52 years old. 24 years with United Airlines. He had flown more than 15,000 hours. He was not moving. She could see from the doorway that he had no pulse. First Officer James Park was in the right seat. He was 34. His hands were wrapped around the control yoke so tightly his knuckles had gone completely white. His whole body was rigid. His eyes were open but they were not really seeing anything. His breathing was fast and shallow. He was not present. His mind had gone somewhere else and locked the door behind it. And his locked hands on the controls were pulling the plane into a slow, dangerous bank that was getting worse every second. Ashley moved fast. But when she spoke, her voice was very slow. Very calm. Like warm water. "James. James, look at me. Just look at my face." Park's eyes moved. They found her face. They were terrified. "Good. You are looking at me. That is good. James, I need one thing from you. Just one thing. I need you to open your hands. Just let go of the yoke. Open your fingers. Like this." She held up her own hands beside his face. Opened them wide, fingers spread. Park stared at her hands. Then he stared at his own hands. Then, very slowly, like a man waking up from a deep sleep, his fingers began to open. The moment his hands released, Ashley took the controls. The plane leveled. Instantly. Smoothly. Like it had been waiting for exactly this moment. Like it had been waiting for her. "Dr. Hayes, Captain Torres has no pulse. Cardiac arrest. I need you at the cockpit door immediately." Robert was already moving. He had been right behind Morgan in the aisle, waiting. Ashley scanned the instrument panel. She had not been in a cockpit for 5 years. This was a Boeing 737-800, a commercial airliner, not the A-10 Thunderbolt fighter jet she had flown for the Air Force. Different aircraft. Different instruments. Different everything. But her eyes knew exactly where to look. Fuel gauge. Altitude. Heading. Terrain warning. 6 seconds. She had everything she needed. Fuel remaining, 63 minutes. Current heading, into Arizona mountain terrain. Nearest safe landing field, Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, Tucson, Arizona. Davis-Monthan. Her base. Her runway. The place where she had learned to fly. The place where she had become the pilot she was. The place she had driven away from for the last time 5 years ago with a 3-year-old boy in a car seat in the back. She picked up the radio. She took one breath. "Albuquerque Center, this is United 1947. Mayday. 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 We have full crew incapacitation. Captain is in cardiac arrest. First officer is incapacitated. I have the aircraft. My name is Ashley Reed. San Diego, California. I am a single mother and an elementary school art teacher. I am also a former United States Air Force A-10 pilot. Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, Tucson, Arizona. 980 combat hours. Deployments to Iraq and Syria. I have not flown any aircraft in 5 years. I have an 8-year-old son in seat 9B. I have 267 people on this aircraft. I have 63 minutes of fuel remaining in Arizona mountain terrain on my current heading. I need help. I need it right now. Please. There was a pause. It lasted less than 2 seconds. It felt like 2 years. Then a voice came back. Steady. Warm. Like a hand reaching through the radio. Ashley, this is Albuquerque Center. I copy your mayday. I have you on radar. Turn left. Heading 180. Direct Davis Mountain. Your old base. I know you know it. My name is Carlos Mendez. I have been working this sector for 14 years. I have 3 kids at home. I am not leaving this frequency until you are on the ground. Ashley, talk to me. Tell me what you need. She said, single mom, in the middle of a mayday call. She didn't have to say that. She said it anyway. Carlos Mendez, 14 years as an air traffic controller, father of 3, heard those 2 words. And something in him shifted. Some things connect people faster than any amount of training ever could. The woman from seat 10A leaned forward and tapped Lucas on the shoulder. Her name was Betty. She was 74 years old and she was from Tucson, Arizona, and she had been giving Lucas butterscotch candies since they left Los Angeles. Lucas, honey, would you like to hear a story while you draw? Lucas did not look up from his sketchbook. Is it about my mama? Betty smiled. Her eyes were wet but her voice was steady. It is about sunshine. Lucas looked up then. Okay, he said. Betty started talking. Her voice was soft and steady and warm. Lucas started drawing again. Dr. Robert Hayes sat in 9C with his hand resting lightly on Lucas's armrest, not touching him, just being there, while Betty told her story and Lucas drew and 267 scared people held their breath. 2A-10 Thunderbolt II aircraft lifted off the runway at Davis Mountain Air Force Base at exactly 12:58 p.m. The A-10 is not a pretty plane. It is not fast. It is not graceful. It is big and ugly and loud and built for one single purpose, to survive things that would destroy anything else, and to keep flying anyway. People who fly A-10s tend to be the same way. Captain David Chen was leading the 2-ship formation. He was 36. He had been flying A-10s at Davis Mountain for 9 years. He was quiet. Professional. The kind of pilot who never panicked. The kind of pilot who, when things went wrong, simply became more calm and more precise. He had a photograph on his desk at the base. His whole squadron from 2014. 12 pilots standing in front of their aircraft on a dusty airfield in Syria. In the middle of the group was a woman with a yellow patch on the arm of her flight suit. Below the patch, in black marker, someone had written one word. Sunshine. David found UA 1947 on radar and pulled alongside in under 2 minutes. He could see the cockpit clearly through his canopy glass. Yellow dress. A woman at the controls of a Boeing 737 commercial airliner. United 1947, Warthog flight from Davis Mountain. We have you visual. State your situation. Ashley gave him the full picture. Fast. Precise. Every detail in the right order. The way A-10 pilots give situation reports. 5 years away from any cockpit. None of it gone. David listened. Professional. But something was moving in the back of his mind. Something that had been there for 5 years. Copy, 1947. What's your A-10 background? Davis Mountain, what years? 2011 to 2019. 8 years. I know that base. I know that runway. David Chen went quiet. For 3 full seconds, he said nothing. 2011 to 2019. Syria. 2014, the photograph on his desk. The yellow patch. The word below it. 1947, what was your call sign? Ashley looked out at the Arizona sky through the cockpit window. Her sky. The sky she had flown through for 8 years. The sky she had left when Lucas was 3 years old and needed her more than the sky did. The sky that had apparently kept her call sign safe for her all this time. Sunshine. 3 seconds of complete silence on the frequency. "Sir." David's wingman said. "Sir, are you?" David Chen was not answering. He was staring through his canopy at the cockpit window of UA 1947. Yellow dress. Steady hands on the controls. And 5 years of a story he had been trying to finish suddenly coming to its ending. Syria. October 2014. His wingman, Lieutenant Mike Torres, call sign Bravo 2, had taken a surface-to-air missile hit and was struggling to keep his A-10 in the air. Cockpit filling with smoke. Controls going soft. Coming down fast over hostile territory. And then out of nowhere, low and fast, an A-10 had appeared. Call sign, Sunshine. She had made a pass right through the middle of the fire, drawing attention away from Mike's aircraft. She had taken 3 hits doing it. Her plane was leaking fuel and hydraulic fluid. She had made one more pass. Mike Torres had made it home. David Chen had written a commendation for that pilot the very same night. The most detailed commendation he had ever written. He had submitted it through every proper channel. 3 weeks later, the Air Force had told him the pilot had already submitted her separation papers. She was gone. The commendation had never been processed. Never delivered. He had been looking for Sunshine for 5 years. He had found her in a yellow sundress, flying a 737 over her old base. "It's Sunshine," David said quietly. "It's actually her." "Who?" his wingman asked. "Syria. 2014, she saved my wingman. She took 3 hits and made one more pass to bring him home. I put in a commendation for her and she was already gone. She left the Air Force to raise her child. That is her. Right there. In that cockpit. In a yellow dress. She is the best pilot I have ever seen in my entire career." Then David Chen pressed his radio button and said something that had never been said on a military aviation frequency in the history of the United States Air Force. "Sunshine. This is Warthog 1. This is Captain David Chen. Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. Syria. October 2014. You saved my wingman, Lieutenant Mike Torres. You flew through enemy fire. You took 3 hits. Your aircraft was leaking fuel and hydraulic fluid. You made one more pass and you brought him home. I wrote a commendation for you that same night. You had already left. I have been trying to find you for 5 years. Sunshine, I am on your wing right now. Same position. Same as 2014. I am not moving from this position. Tell me what you need and I will make it happen." Ashley Reed sat at the controls of a commercial airliner at 30,000 feet with 267 people behind her and 44 minutes of fuel remaining. Arizona desert below. Lucas in seat 9B with his sketchbook and Betty's stories. Carlos Mendez on the radio, steady as a lighthouse. And David Chen, the man whose wingman she had saved 5 years ago, on her wing, exactly where he had said he would be. And a commendation she never knew existed. She did not cry. Sunshine did not cry in cockpits. That was a rule. But something inside her, something that had been quietly folded up and put away in a drawer for 5 years, underneath the lesson plans and the parent-teacher conferences and the bedtime stories and the school art projects, unfolded. Straightened. Stood up. "David. I need current storm data, runway conditions, and crosswind numbers for 12L. And David, tell Mike Torres that his call sign just gave me exactly what I needed. Let's bring these people home." She saved his wingman in 2014. She left the Air Force 3 weeks later. The commendation was never delivered. David Chen has been looking for her for 5 years. She was in San Diego. Teaching 8-year-olds how to paint. Wearing yellow on Fridays because her son said it made her look like sunshine. Sunshine always finds a way through. Even when no one is looking for it. What happens next? The storm, the near disaster, the 267 people whispering, "You cannot miss this." Row 9B, T-33 minutes. Betty was still talking. Her voice had not stopped for a single moment. She talked about growing up in Tucson. About the desert sunsets. About her late husband Frank, who had been a mail carrier for 30 years and always came home smelling like sunshine and dust. Lucas was still drawing. He had filled 5 pages now. Page 1, Mama standing up from her seat, yellow dress. Page 2, the cockpit door from the outside. Page 3, an A-10 Thunderbolt flying alongside the window. He had never seen an A-10 in real life, but he had drawn them from books. He had always loved them, sturdy and serious and impossible to stop. Page 4, the Arizona desert from above. Flat. Brown. Enormous. Page 5, a sun. Big and round and yellow, pushing through a bank of dark clouds from below. He had drawn that sun 1,000 times in his life. On the covers of his school notebooks. On the cards he made for his mother's birthday. On the margins of his homework. He drew it again now because it was the most true thing he knew how to draw. Sunshine finds a way through. Arizona in May is beautiful and dangerous. The desert heats up fast in the afternoon. Hot air rises. Columns of it, invisible and powerful, pushing upward from the baked ground below. Pilots call them thermals. They can appear without any warning at all. This one hit UA, 1947 at 1:23 p.m. with no warning. The plane lurched hard to the left. Then bounced upward. Then dropped. The motion was violent, like hitting a speed bump at highway speed, but sideways and vertical at the same time. A carry-on bag fell out of an overhead bin and hit the aisle floor. A woman in row 14 screamed. Then the woman next to her screamed. Then it spread through the cabin like a wave. Lucas's sketchbook flew off his lap. Betty gasped and grabbed his arm. "Hold on, honey, hold on tight." Dr. Robert Hayes pressed one hand firmly on Captain Torres' chest to keep him stable and grabbed the back of Ashley's now empty seat 9A with his other hand. Morgan Davis, braced in the rear galley, stared at the cockpit door and said nothing. Just waited. Just breathed. In the cockpit. Sunshine, thermal, coming up hard on the right, David's voice, tight and fast. Ashley was already moving. Left aileron. Right rudder. The exact corrections for this exact situation. Movements she had made in the A-10 over Iraq 100 times. Over Syria 100 more. Her hands did not think. They simply did what they had always done. The plane fought back. The thermal was strong. It pushed. Ashley pushed harder. 7 seconds. The plane leveled. The screaming in the cabin slowly stopped. Replaced by silence. Then quiet crying. Then the sound of people catching their breath. 1947, "Are you okay up there?" Carlos asked. His voice was steady, but she could hear something underneath it. The kind of thing that happens to a voice when your hands are shaking. "We're okay." "Carlos, what is the storm doing? Give me the full picture." "Storm is moving north-northwest. You have a gap, a clear path, 8 minutes wide. If you go through it right now, you miss the worst of it. If you wait, the gap closes." "How long to Davis Monthan from my current position?" 19 minutes at current speed." "Copy. We're going through the gap right now. David, stay with me. On your wing, sunshine. I'm not going anywhere." After the turbulence. Lucas picked his sketchbook up off the floor of the aisle. He held it with both hands and looked at the pages. The turbulence had smeared the big yellow sun on page 5. Just slightly. A blur across the bottom of it. He looked at the smear for a long time. Then he looked at the cockpit door. Then he looked back at the smear. He picked up his pencil and very carefully, very slowly, he fixed it. One small stroke at a time. Patient. Focused. The way his mother had taught him, if something is worth drawing, it is worth fixing. When he was done, he looked at it again. I am going to give this to Mama when she lands, he said. He said it to Betty but also to himself. Like a promise. Betty could not answer. Her throat had closed completely. She just nodded and held the boy's hand. Lucas let her. She always says sunshine finds a way through, he said. Even through storms. Carlos Mendez had been an air traffic controller for 14 years. He had talked planes through bad weather. He had talked pilots through equipment failures. He had guided 2 emergency landings in his career. He had never done anything like this. But he did not show it. Not once. Sunshine, Davis Monthan is straight ahead. Runway 12 left. 13,500 feet long. That is the longest runway they have and it is yours. Winds out of the west at 9 knots. Conditions are good. All emergency services are already rolling, fire trucks, medical, everything. They have been waiting for you. The whole base knows you're coming home, Ashley. David's voice came next. Slower now. Like a teacher. Careful and exact. Sunshine, I am going to walk you through the commercial approach step by step. The 737 is different from the 810. Listen to every single word. Flaps 5 at 210 knots. Flaps 15 at 180. Gear down at 1,500 feet. Flaps 30 on final approach. You know this, Ashley. Your hands know this. Even after 5 years. Even in a different airplane. Even in a yellow dress. Your hands know. Copy that, David. She began running through the checklist. Precise. Methodical. Every item. Then. David, tell me about Mike. Your wingman. Is he okay? What happened to him after Syria? A pause. When David spoke again, his voice was different. Still controlled. But something in it had come loose, just a little. Like a single thread pulled out of a tightly woven fabric. Mike Torres is at Davis Monthan right now. He is on the ground. He has been standing at the edge of the runway for the last 20 minutes watching the radar screen. Watching for you. Ashley, he named his son after your call sign. His boy is 5 years old. His name is Ray. Sunshine Ray Torres. Mike told him that story every night at bedtime. The pilot who came out of nowhere and made one more pass and brought Daddy home. He told Ray that someday he would meet that pilot. Ashley, today is that day. Lucas, T-12 minutes. Lucas Reed put down his pencil. He looked at his sketchbook. 5 pages. 5 drawings. He turned to page 6. He started a new drawing. The last one. He drew row 9 from above. Like a bird looking down. 2 seats side by side. 9A, empty. His mother's seat. 9B, a small boy sitting very still, looking straight ahead at the cockpit door. He drew it carefully. He drew the sketchbook in the boy's lap. He drew the overhead bin. He drew the window to the left with the Arizona desert far below. Then at the bottom of the page, in his best handwriting, the careful letters he used when something really mattered, he wrote 6 words. Mama always comes back. He closed the sketchbook. He put it in his lap with both hands on top of it. He looked at the cockpit door. And he waited. 800 feet above the Arizona Valley floor. The runway visible ahead. Long and wide and perfect. Almost there. A crosswind hit from the left without warning. A desert thermal pushing sideways, not up and down this time, but sideways, hard. The plane drifted left of the centerline. Fast. The cabin screamed. Lucas Reed did not scream. He held his sketchbook against his chest with both arms. He looked at the cockpit door. He said, very quietly, just to himself. Sunshine finds a way. Sunshine, hard left, David's voice cut in. Ashley was already there. Full right rudder. Hold it. Don't let up. The crosswind pushed back with everything it had. She pushed harder. 10 hands. 8 years of combat flying. Thousands of hours of pushing through things that pushed back. Art teacher hands. 3 years of patience. 3 years of showing 8-year-olds that you do not give up on something just because it is difficult. Single mother hands. 5 years of doing everything alone because someone had to. All the same hands. All the same strength. 9 seconds. The plane came back to centerline. A long breath on the radio. Carlos. That was a perfect recovery, Ashley. That was perfect. 4 miles to touchdown. Runway is in sight, do you have it visually? Runway in sight. A pause. Carlos, I can see my old base. Carlos put his hand over his microphone. He turned to his colleague beside him. His voice was barely above a whisper. She can see her base, he said. She is going home. 300 feet above the runway. David Chen's voice one last time. Sunshine, I have to break off now. I can't follow you down. But I need you to hear this before I go. You flew an airplane today that you had not touched in 5 years. You landed it in a crosswind with 267 people counting on you. You did every single thing right. Mike is on the ground right now. His son Ray is standing right next to him. Both of them are looking up. Your son Lucas is in seat 9B. He has been sitting there this whole time, still and quiet and drawing. Because he knows you are coming back. Bring them all home, Ashley. One more time. Sunshine. 200 feet. 150 feet. 100 feet. Lucas, row 9B, the last 30 seconds. Lucas could not see the runway. He was in seat 9B, the middle seat. The window was to his left but the angle was wrong. He could not see anything outside. So he closed his eyes. He pressed the sketchbook against his chest. He breathed. And he said it out loud. Quietly. Not to Betty. Not to Dr. Hayes. Just to himself and the sky and his mother. Sunshine finds a way. Betty heard it. Dr. Robert Hayes heard it. The woman in seat 8B heard it. And then, without anyone planning it, without anyone deciding to, she said it too. Quietly. Just to herself. Sunshine finds a way. Then a man in row 10. Then 2 women in row 11 who didn't know each other. Then someone in row 15 and someone in row 19. Not loud. Not a chant. Not organized. Just, people saying it quietly in the last 30 seconds before the wheels touched the ground. Like a breath. Like a heartbeat. Like a prayer that 8-year-old Lucas Reed had written on the air. Sunshine finds a way. Sunshine finds a way. 267 people. Some of them whispering. 50 feet. 20 feet. 10 feet. Complete silence. The main gear touched the runway. Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. Tucson, Arizona. Friday, May 17, 2019. 1:44 p.m. Pacific Time. Her runway. The runway she had taken off from 1,000 times. The runway she had driven away from for the last time 5 years ago. The runway that had apparently been waiting for her. The landing was smooth. So smooth that for one moment it was hard to tell the exact second the wheels touched the ground. Like coming home so gently that the house didn't even notice you were gone. Reverse thrust. Brakes. The plane slowed. Slower. Slower. Stopped. 8 seconds of complete silence. Not a single sound in the cabin. Not a breath. Lucas, the door opens. He felt the wheels touch the ground. He felt the plane slow down. He felt it stop completely. He opened his eyes. He looked at the cockpit door. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3. The door opened. Yellow dress. She walked out. She looked straight at him across the whole length of the cabin. Lucas Reed stood up on his seat. He held up his sketchbook with both hands. Page 6. The last drawing. Row 9. The empty seat. The little boy waiting. And at the bottom. Mama always comes back. He held it up high. So she could see it clearly. Across 267 people. Across the whole world. Ashley saw it. She read it. His handwriting. Careful letters. 8 years old. And she, Sunshine, who had not cried through the Mayday call or the storm or the crosswind at 800 feet. Who had not cried under fire in Syria or when her husband left or when she drove away from Davis Monthan for the last time. Cried. Right there. In the aisle of a Boeing 737. In front of 267 people. She cried. She walked fast. Then she was running. And Lucas, still standing on his seat, opened his arms as wide as they would go. Mama. She grabbed him. Held him against her. His sketchbook squished between them. Neither of them cared at all. Albuquerque Center, United 1947. On the ground. Davis Monthan Air Force Base. Tucson, Arizona. Friday, May 17, 2019. 1:44 p.m. Pacific Time. 267 souls. All safe. Captain Torres needs immediate cardiac care. Please advise medical team standing by. And Carlos. Sunshine found a way. Over and out. Carlos Mendez put down his headset. He put his hand over his microphone. He turned to the colleague sitting next to him at the next workstation. He thought the frequency was closed. It wasn't. She called herself a single mom on a Mayday call, he said. An art teacher in a yellow dress. She had not flown a plane in 5 years. And she flew that airplane like she never left. Like the sky kept her seat warm for 5 years. Just in case. The frequency was still open. It was broadcasting. A CNN radio crew monitoring the Albuquerque Center frequency picked it up live. 47 million people heard those words before the day was over. Carlos Mendez did not regret a single one of them. David Chen landed his A-10 and walked across the hot Arizona tarmac to the stairs of UA, 1947. Ashley came down the stairs with Lucas in her arms and the sketchbook in his. David stopped 3 feet away from them. He looked at Ashley. Then at Lucas. Then back at Ashley. He could not speak for a moment. Then there was a sound from across the tarmac. Running footsteps. Uneven, a slight limp from an old injury, the kind that never quite healed right. A man came running toward them. Lieutenant Mike Torres. 31 years old. The man Ashley had saved in Syria in 2014. He had been stationed at Davis Monthan for 2 years now. When the emergency call had come in and the name Sunshine had gone out over the frequency, he had been in his car in under 30 seconds. Beside him, running to keep up, was a small boy. 5 years old. A small blue jacket. The name on it in yellow letters. Ray. Mike Torres stopped in front of Ashley Reed. He could not speak for a long time. His mouth opened and closed. His eyes were very bright. Then. You took 3 hits. You made one more pass. You came through fire to bring me home. I have a wife because of that pass. I have a son because of that pass. I named him after you. I told him your story every single night. I told him that someday he would meet you. Ashley, still holding Lucas, looked down at the small boy beside Mike Torres. Big dark eyes looking up at her. Hi, Ray, she said. Ray looked up at her for a long moment. Are you really Sunshine? I really am. My daddy says sunshine always finds a way through. Lucas, his chin resting on his mother's shoulder, looked at Ray. My mama says that too, he said. She says it every morning. The two boys looked at each other. 5 years old and 8 years old. Connected by one pilot and one call sign and one pass over a desert in Syria that neither of them had been alive to see. Betty came down the stairs behind them, moving slowly, one hand on the railing. She reached into her purse. 2 butterscotch candies. She held one out to Lucas and one out to Ray. For the brave boys, she said. Both boys took them without looking away from each other. Neither of them knew why they already felt like they had been friends their whole lives. They just did. Ashley and Lucas Reed finally made it to Denver. 3 days after the emergency. Rebooked flight. Different airline. Ashley chose the window seat. Lucas pressed his nose flat against the glass as the plane lifted off the runway. His breath fogged the window. Mama, we're flying. We're actually flying. Ashley looked out the window at the city falling away below them. We are, baby. Lucas stayed at the window for a while. Then he turned to his mother. Mama, do you like flying? Ashley Reed looked at her son. This boy who had sat completely still in seat 9B for 63 minutes with his sketchbook pressed to his chest. This boy who had said, sunshine finds a way, quietly to himself in the last 30 seconds before the wheels touched. This boy who had held up a drawing that said, Mama always comes back, across a cabin full of 267 people who all needed her to come back too. I love flying. I have always loved flying. I just love you more. Lucas was satisfied with this answer. He turned back to the window. Then he opened his sketchbook and started a new drawing. Clouds. The shape of a wing. The Colorado mountains coming up ahead. Sunshine. 2 weeks after they came home to San Diego, a letter arrived. A large brown envelope from the United States Air Force. Inside was a piece of paper. Official. Formal. With a seal at the top and a signature at the bottom. The commendation David Chen had written in Syria in October 2014. Finally processed. Finally delivered. 5 years late. Ashley read it once at the kitchen table. Then she framed it. Then she hung it on the wall of Lucas's bedroom, next to his drawings. That evening, Lucas saw it for the first time. He stood in front of it for a long time, reading every word. Mama, what is this? Something I did before you were born. A long time ago. When Mama used to fly. Were you good at it? I was okay. David Chen said you were the best he ever saw. Ashley looked at her son. You talked to David? He called. On the day you landed. Carlos gave him our phone number. He talked to me while you were still in the cockpit. He told me everything. About Syria. About Mike Torres. About the 3 hits. About the one more pass. Lucas pointed at the commendation on the wall. You did that because of the people. Because they needed you to. Yes. You made one more pass even though your plane was hurt. Yes. Lucas was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that Ashley Reed had not expected. Had not prepared for. Had no answer ready for. That sounds exactly like you, Mama. Does it? Yes. You always make one more pass. When I am sick at night and you already put me to bed, you come back and check one more time. When I forget my lunch, you drive it to school even though it makes you late. When I am scared of something, you stay until it's not scary anymore. You always make one more pass. That's just what you do. Ashley Reed stood in her son's bedroom in San Diego, California. She looked at the commendation on the wall. Then at her son. Then at the drawings around it, pages from his sketchbook, taped up, including page 6 from the flight. The little boy in seat 9B. The empty seat beside him. The 6 words at the bottom. Mama always comes back. She sat down on the floor next to him, just sat down right there on the rug, and she put her arm around him. Yeah, baby. That's just what I do. Pilot passed out at 30,000 feet. Single mom in row 9 said, "Baby, watch Mama fly." She was not trying to be a hero. She was trying to make one more pass. For Lucas. For Mike Torres. For 267 strangers who had someone waiting for them. Sunshine always finds a way through. Even when you are an art teacher in a yellow dress. Even when you are a single mom at 30,000 feet. Especially then. Lucas knew. He always knew.